Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to lean in right now and hear me carefully, because what I'm about to say can change the way you see your life today. I know you've been through things that no one else understands. I know the weight on your shoulders feels unbearable. I know you've cried alone, prayed in silence, and asked God over and over, Lord, why is this happening? Will it ever change? You've poured your heart out, done everything you know to do, yet nothing seems to move. And I want you to listen to me with every fiber of your being. God is not asleep. God is not distant. God is not powerless. The very situation that seems impossible, the very mountain that looks too high to climb, the very problem that seems unsolvable, God specializes in that. He is already at work behind the scenes. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. If you're watching this and your heart is heavy, your hope is small, your situation looks impossible, comment below. God will fix it. Share this message with someone who needs hope today. Hit that like button, because faith moves when action meets the word. And I want you to settle into this truth. What looks impossible to humans is ordinary to God. The God of heaven, the one who spoke stars into existence, the one who called life out of nothing. The same God is ready to fix what's broken in your life, even if it feels impossible right now. And if you will stay with me, I will show you how to align your heart with His promises. Ignite your faith and position yourself to receive the breakthrough that's already on the way. And here's the first truth that will anchor you today. God specializes in fixing the impossible. What looks hopeless to you is nothing to Him. God specializes in fixing the impossible. What looks hopeless to you is nothing to Him. You may be sitting there today looking at your life and thinking there is no way out. Maybe your finances are in ruins, your health is failing, or your relationships are in shambles. Maybe you have prayed over and over again. You have given it your best effort. You have exhausted every resource, yet nothing seems to work. You have looked at the clock and the calendar, and the days are passing, but nothing changes. And in your heart, a thought creeps in. Maybe God has forgotten me. Maybe He doesn't care. Maybe this is impossible. I need you to understand something today. God is not bound by your impossibilities. He is not limited by your failures. He is not surprised by your circumstances. The very things that look like insurmountable mountains to you are nothing to Him. What looks hopeless to human eyes is merely an opportunity for God to show His power. This is the God who spoke the world into existence, who calmed storms with a word, who raised the dead, who turned water into wine. He doesn't deal in limitations. He deals in miracles, and what is impossible for men is routine for Him. You have to see your situation from a divine perspective. Stop looking at it through the lens of human logic. Stop letting fear and doubt convince you that your case is too hard, that the hole you are in is too deep. That is not reality. That is perception, and perception lies. The reality is that the God who holds the universe in His hands is also holding you. He sees the end from the beginning. He knows the plan. He knows the breakthrough. He knows the victory that is already on its way. I know this is painful. I know it is emotionally exhausting. I know it can feel like every step forward is met with 10 steps back. I know your heart aches when you cry out and the silence feels deafening. I know the nights are long and lonely. I know the prayers sometimes feel unanswered, but I need to tell you this. The silence does not mean absence. The delay does not mean denial. The obstacles do not mean impossibility. God is still at work. He is still orchestrating, still aligning, still preparing the way for your miracle. Here is the truth you must embrace. God's solutions are bigger than your problems. Your problem may be a financial crisis, but God specializes in abundance. Your problem may be a broken relationship, but God specializes in restoration. Your problem may be a health challenge, but God specializes in healing. Your problem may be darkness, but God specializes in light. What looks impossible to you is not even a challenge to Him. And when He moves, everything shifts in ways you could never imagine. He will make a way where there is no way, and He will bring life where there seems to be only death. You have to cultivate faith that refuses to quit. Faith is not just saying, I believe, when it's convenient. Faith is saying, I believe God is working, when the evidence says otherwise. Faith is holding on when the world pushes you to let go. Faith is worship in the middle of waiting. Faith is declaring victory in the very place where defeat seems inevitable. That faith honors God. That faith triggers miracles. That faith allows the impossible to become inevitable. Understand this. God does not just fix things, He transforms them. He does not just restore what was lost, He elevates it. He does not just make a way, He makes a highway. He does not just bring back life, He brings abundance. The impossible scenario you see today is not the final chapter. Your story is not over. The tears, the pain, the disappointment, the heartbreak, all of it is a prelude to a testimony so powerful, so life-changing that when it comes to pass, people will be left in awe. You have to speak life over your circumstances. You have to refuse to declare what the enemy wants you to believe. You have to stand on God's word even when it feels like it's not moving. Declare it, speak it, say it with authority. God will fix it. God will restore it. God will bring breakthrough. God specializes in my impossible. Your words are not just prayers, they're weapons. Your words align with heaven. Your words release power into situations that feel beyond repair. And never forget this, timing is everything. God's fix may not come when you want it. It may not come when you think it should, but it will come when it is perfect. And when it comes, it will be worth the wait. The waiting is not wasted. It is refining you. It is strengthening your faith. It is growing your endurance. And when God finally moves, you will not only receive the blessing, you will receive the person He has been shaping you to become through the process. So when you feel hopeless, when you feel defeated, when you feel like giving up, remember this: what looks impossible to you is nothing to God. He is working behind the scenes. He is fighting for you. He is moving in ways you cannot see. And He is about to fix it in ways you cannot imagine. In ways that will leave you speechless, in ways that will bring glory to His name and testimony to your life. Your current pain is temporary, but God's restoration is eternal. I know it hurts. I know your heart is heavy. I know you are exhausted from the fight, exhausted from the tears, exhausted from the unanswered prayers. I know you are weary of waking up every day and seeing the same problems, the same challenges, the same disappointments. And I know the temptation to give up, to walk away, to say, it's over, nothing will change. But hear me today with all the intensity your heart can grasp. Your pain is temporary, but God's restoration is eternal. The season you are in, the struggle you are facing, the trial you are enduring, they are not permanent. They are temporary chapters, not the whole story. God is a master of restoration. He takes broken things and makes them beautiful. He takes empty places and fills them with abundance. He takes lost opportunities and turns them into lifelong victories. He takes death and brings life. He takes mourning and brings dancing. He takes despair and turns it into hope. What you see as an ending is actually the beginning of something far greater than you could ever plan or imagine. Sometimes restoration is not instant, and that is where faith comes in. Faith is what allows you to endure the wait without bitterness. Faith is what keeps your heart from being hardened by disappointment. Faith is what ensures that when the restoration finally comes, you are ready to receive it, to steward it, to honor it, and to glorify God with it. And yes, waiting is painful, but the pain is refining. The pain is not punishment, it is preparation. The pain is teaching you patience, trust, and resilience. The pain is aligning your heart with heaven so that when restoration comes, it will not just be a fix, it will be transformation. Let me be brutally honest. Sometimes God restores more than you lost. Sometimes the restoration is bigger, better, and more abundant than you ever imagined. He does not just return what was broken, He multiplies it. He does not just repair, He upgrades. He does not just revive, He empowers. That is the kind of God you serve, the God whose restoration is eternal, whose faithfulness is unshakable, whose promises never fail. And the best part, this restoration is not just for you. It is a testimony to the world of what God can do when He moves on behalf of those who refuse to quit. Do not let temporary circumstances steal your hope. Do not let temporary pain steal your faith. Do not let temporary setbacks steal your joy. What is happening right now is only temporary. What God is about to do is eternal. What looks impossible today will become undeniable tomorrow. The storm will pass, the pain will fade, the tears will dry, and in its place God will bring restoration so powerful, so magnificent, so glorious that it will forever change your story, your family, and even those around you. Every tear you have cried is being recorded. Every prayer you have whispered in the night is being answered in ways you cannot yet see. Every sigh of frustration, every moment of desperation, every day you thought you couldn't go on, God is redeeming it. He is restoring it. He is fixing it. And this restoration is not just temporary relief. It is eternal fruit. It is a blessing that lasts, a testimony that inspires, and a proof that God never abandons his children. So I want you to hold on. I want you to believe. I want you to trust with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. Your pain is temporary, but God's restoration is eternal. He is moving, he is fighting, he is working, and he is about to reveal himself in your life in ways that will leave you amazed, grateful, and full of praise. He will restore what is broken. He will bring back what is lost. He will make new what is old, and he will do it in his perfect timing, his perfect way, and his perfect power. Faith is refusing to surrender to despair when everything screams defeat. You may be in a place where every door you knock on seems closed. You may feel like the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders. You may have prayed, planned, and worked, yet nothing seems to change. The bills are still there. The relationships are still strained. The sickness may still linger, and the future feels uncertain. Every sign points to failure. Every circumstance says, give up, it's over. And every voice, even the one inside your head, is tempting you to surrender. But this is exactly the moment faith is meant to rise. Faith is not convenient, it is revolutionary. Faith is not easy, it is audacious. Faith is not quiet, it shouts in defiance of the impossible. To refuse despair means to hold on when your mind says let go. It means to continue walking forward even when the path is dark. It means to keep believing in the unseen while the visible screams impossibility. Despair is a lie. Despair is a trap. Despair is what the enemy uses to convince you that God is absent. But God is never absent. God is never late. God is never powerless. When everything in your life is screaming defeat, that is the exact moment God is preparing to demonstrate his power. Faith refuses to be moved by circumstances. Faith refuses to bow to fear. Faith refuses to quit when the world expects you to fail. You see, faith is not blind optimism. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is knowing the character of God, understanding his promises, and choosing to trust him even when the evidence says otherwise. Faith says, I may not see it now. I may not feel it now. I may not understand it now, but I know God is working and he will bring victory. Faith refuses to negotiate with despair. Faith refuses to bargain with fear. Faith refuses to compromise with hopelessness. Faith is a force that moves mountains, breaks chains, heals hearts, restores relationships, and turns the impossible into the inevitable. I know the pain is real. I know the exhaustion is real. I know the nights of crying and the days of frustration are real. I know the moments when you feel like your prayers are hitting a wall and nothing is changing seem endless. But here's the truth. Those very moments are where God is most active. Those moments are where he is shaping your character, strengthening your patience, building your endurance, and preparing you for a breakthrough that will be beyond your imagination. Despair may seem overwhelming, but it cannot overcome the power of God-backed faith. Faith refuses to surrender because it understands a critical truth. God has not abandoned you, and your current reality does not determine your ultimate destiny. Your pain is temporary, your setback is temporary, your disappointment is temporary. The victory, the breakthrough, the restoration that God has promised is eternal. Faith is choosing to stand when others fall. Faith is continuing to sow when the harvest has not yet appeared. Faith is keeping your eyes on the promise while your hands keep working. Faith refuses to quit because it knows that God is faithful, that his word never fails, and that he specializes in turning hopeless situations into undeniable testimonies. There will be moments when despair whispers lies. You've tried too many times. You've failed too many times. It's too late. Do not listen. Those are the enemy's lies. Those are the echoes of fear. Those are the chains that faith must break. Faith breaks every chain. Faith silences every lie. Faith lights every darkness. When you refuse to surrender, God sees your heart. He honors your persistence. He recognizes your determination, and he moves on your behalf in ways you cannot yet comprehend. Faith also requires action. Faith is not passive. Faith is not silent. Faith is not waiting with folded hands. Faith steps forward even when the path is unclear. Faith prays when the answers are delayed. Faith speaks life when the situation is dead. Faith moves with confidence, not with fear. Faith takes the next step even when the previous step failed. Faith continues the fight even when everyone else has walked away. Faith is courage in the face of impossibility, hope in the middle of despair, and strength when weakness surrounds you. And here's the ultimate truth about faith. It is not dependent on your circumstances. It is dependent on your God. Your life may be messy. Your finances may be broken. Your health may be failing. Your relationships may be fractured. Your dreams may seem dead. But faith says God is bigger than all of this. God is stronger than my circumstances. God is my solution. God is my victory. God will not fail me. Faith transforms hopelessness into expectation. Faith transforms limitation into opportunity. Faith transforms pain into purpose. Faith transforms trials into triumph. Faith is a choice. It is a decision to refuse despair even when it's screaming around you. It is a commitment to trust God even when the evidence says otherwise. It is a declaration that no matter how impossible your situation seems, you will not surrender because you know that God specializes in impossibilities. And the more you exercise that faith, the more power you release in your life. The more faith you display, the closer God draws to demonstrate His power, His restoration, and His glory in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match your expectations. I know you have been waiting. I know you have been patient. I know you have been praying, fasting, sacrificing, hoping, believing, and yet nothing seems to happen. I know the frustration, the confusion, the moments when you say, "Why, God? Why isn't it happening? Why does it feel like you are silent?" I know it seems like time is working against you, that life is moving on without mercy, that the world does not care. But here's the truth. God's timing is never off. It is never late. It is never early. It is always perfect. Sometimes you see delay as denial, waiting as punishment, and silence as abandonment. But that is not the way God works. God's timing is never random. God's timing is never flawed. Every delay, every wait, every unanswered moment is perfectly orchestrated to bring about the result that is best for you. He is aligning circumstances, moving people, arranging resources, and positioning breakthroughs in ways that you cannot yet see. What looks like waiting to you is actually preparation, planning, and perfection in progress. I want you to understand that God's timing is not based on your clock, your calendar, your plans, or your logic. His timing is based on His infinite wisdom, His perfect knowledge, and His divine strategy. You may want the breakthrough today, tomorrow, next week, or next month. But God knows exactly when it will have the greatest impact. He knows the timing that will maximize your blessing, your testimony, and your growth. He knows the timing that will teach you patience, humility, endurance, and faith. Patience in God's timing is not passive. It is not resignation. It is active trust. It is confident expectation. It is persistent prayer. It is readiness for the moment when God says now. When you trust God's timing, you position yourself to receive not just what you prayed for, but what you truly need. You position yourself to receive the blessing in its fullness, the answer in its perfection, and the restoration in its completeness. Do not despise waiting. Do not reject delay. Do not curse the time it takes. God is using every moment to prepare the way for your miracle. He is using every second to refine your character, strengthen your faith, sharpen your discernment, and teach you the skills you will need to steward the breakthrough when it arrives. What you see as a delay is actually divine preparation. What you feel as frustration is actually divine alignment. What you endure as waiting is actually divine training for the next level of your life. Sometimes God's timing will seem painful, and that is intentional. Sometimes the blessing is delayed so that the breakthrough is multiplied. Sometimes the answer is postponed so that your faith becomes unshakable. Sometimes the miracle is hidden so that the testimony will be undeniable. Do not be angry with the process. Do not despise the journey. Do not lose hope because the timing is not yours. God's timing is always perfect, and when it comes, it will exceed your imagination, exceed your expectations, and exceed your understanding. Even when it seems like nothing is happening, God is moving. Even when it seems like no one is helping, God is orchestrating. Even when it seems impossible, God is preparing the way. Your impatience does not change His timing. Your frustration does not change His plan. Your doubt does not change His faithfulness. God's timing is perfect because it is based on His wisdom, not your feelings, not your fear, not your circumstances. So today, I want you to embrace God's timing. I want you to trust His process. I want you to surrender your agenda, your calendar, and your plans to the one who holds eternity in His hands. Your breakthrough is coming. Your miracle is on the way. Your restoration is being prepared. Your victory is being orchestrated. The delay is not denial. The silence is not abandonment. The waiting is not wasted. God's timing is perfect, and it will change your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. Trials are not punishments. They are preparation for your breakthrough. I know it hurts. I know it feels unfair. I know the nights are long, the burden's heavy, and your heart weary from fighting battles you never asked for. Life has a way of hitting hard when you least expect it. You may have done everything right. You may have been faithful, diligent, obedient, and yet here you are struggling, hurting, questioning, wondering if God really cares. And in those moments, it is so easy to feel abandoned, to feel overlooked, to feel like the pain is too much to bear. But here's the truth. Your trials are not punishments. They are not God turning his back. They are not evidence that you are unloved. They are preparation. They are shaping you, stretching you, strengthening you for the destiny God has planned for your life. You see, God does not waste pain. Every tear, every loss, every disappointment, every moment of heartbreak has a purpose. He is using these moments to refine your character, to sharpen your faith, to prepare your mind, your heart, and your spirit for the breakthrough that is coming. Trials are training grounds for triumph. They are classrooms for character. They are workshops for wisdom. The very thing you are tempted to hate is the very thing God is using to equip you. And if you can shift your perspective, if you can see beyond the suffering, you will recognize that every trial is a step closer to the miracle that awaits you. I need you to hear this clearly. Your breakthrough will not come before the preparation is complete. God is not in a rush to give you a blessing that you are not ready to steward. The delay, the struggle, the pain, they are all part of his divine process. And while it may feel unbearable, while it may feel relentless, while it may feel like it will never end, these trials are shaping you into someone who can handle, appreciate, and maximize the gift that God is about to release. They are the forge in which your faith is tempered, the gym in which your spiritual muscles are strengthened, and the arena in which your endurance is proven. Trials also reveal the depth of your faith. When the storms hit, when the pressure builds, when circumstances push you to the edge, your response shows the world. And more importantly, God, what is truly in your heart? Will you scream, complain, and give up? Or will you stand, trust, and believe? Will you allow despair to define you? Or will you allow faith to strengthen you? The trial is not just about what you are going through. It is about who you are becoming. And the person God is shaping you to be is far greater than the problem you are facing. You may not understand it now. You may not see the purpose. You may not feel the blessing. But the truth remains, God is working all things together for your good. He is orchestrating every detail. He is aligning every circumstance. He is positioning every person and every resource you need. And when the breakthrough comes, it will not just fix what was broken. It will elevate, transform, and expand your life in ways you could never have imagined. Trials are not the end. They are the beginning of something greater. Do not despise them. Do not fight them in the wrong way. Do not resent them. Embrace them as preparation. Study them as lessons. Learn from them as teachers. Every tear is an investment. Every struggle is a stepping stone. Every setback is a setup for a greater comeback. And when the breakthrough finally arrives, you will understand why it took so long, why it was so hard, and why God had to shape you through the trial before releasing the victory. Your situation does not define your destiny. God's power does. Right now, you may feel trapped, stuck, or overwhelmed. You may be looking around at your life and seeing limitations, failures, disappointments, and obstacles. You may be comparing your journey to others and wondering why they seem to be moving ahead while you feel stuck in the mud. You may be thinking that your circumstances are too great, too complex, too impossible for change, and the enemy is whispering lies in your ear. This is who you are. This is all you will ever have. This is your lot. But I am here to tell you the truth. Your situation does not define your destiny. God's power does. God is not limited by your circumstances. He is not restricted by your past mistakes. He is not constrained by your failures, your debts, your losses, or the brokenness around you. What you see as a dead end, God sees as a starting point. What you feel as hopeless, God sees as an opportunity. What you perceive as impossible, God sees as inevitable. Your destiny is not determined by the problems you face. It is determined by the God who holds your life in his hands. The world wants you to believe that your past defines you, that your failures define you, that your circumstances define you. But the Word of God says otherwise. God looks at your heart, your faith, your persistence, and your willingness to trust Him despite what you see. He looks at your spirit, your resilience, your obedience, and your courage to keep going. When everything tells you to quit, that is what defines you. That is what positions you for victory. That is what makes you unstoppable when God moves on your behalf. I need you to stop talking about your limitations and start talking about God's power. Stop focusing on what is lacking and start focusing on what is unlimited. Stop believing the lies of the enemy and start declaring the truth of heaven. Your circumstances may scream no way, but God's power screams watch me. Your problems may feel bigger than you, but they are not bigger than the one who is living inside of you. Your obstacles may be mountains, but the same God who moves mountains can move every single one in your path. Understand this. Your destiny is not determined by what is happening in your life today. It is determined by who God is and what He can do. He is the God of miracles, the God of restoration, the God of provision, the God of healing, the God of abundance, the God of breakthrough. And when He moves, nothing can stop it. When He acts, every limitation falls, every obstacle disappears, every chain breaks, every sickness heals, every loss is restored, and every situation shifts. Your destiny is secure because it is anchored in His power, not in your circumstances. You also need to recognize that God's power works in ways you cannot always predict. It is not always about immediate results. It is not always about visible solutions. Sometimes His power works behind the scenes, arranging, aligning, and orchestrating events that will suddenly reveal a breakthrough. Sometimes His power comes through people, resources, ideas, or opportunities you never expected. Sometimes His power comes in ways that teach you humility, patience, and endurance so that the blessing lasts. You may not see it now, but God's power is at work, preparing your destiny even in the midst of chaos. Your circumstances are temporary, but God's power is eternal. Your struggles are real, but His strength is stronger. Your fears are loud, but His word is louder. Your limitations are visible, but His supernatural ability is invisible yet unstoppable. Your past may have scars, but His power restores, renews, and redeems every broken part of your life. No matter how dire your situation, no matter how impossible it seems, no matter how long you have waited, God's power is greater, and it is enough to bring your destiny to fruition. So today, refuse to let your situation define you. Refuse to let your setbacks dictate your future. Refuse to let fear, doubt, or hopelessness speak louder than God's promises. Your destiny is bigger than your problems. Your future is brighter than your past. Your breakthrough is greater than your trial. Your victory is certain because the God who holds the universe in His hands also holds your life, and His power is unmatched, unstoppable, and unshakable. Restoration often comes greater than the original, not just a return to normal. I know that when life breaks you, your first desire is simply to get back to where you were. You want the pain to end. You want the storm to pass. You want the chaos to stop. You want your finances to recover, your health to improve, your relationships to heal, and your peace to return. But God doesn't just restore. He doesn't just put the pieces back together. He doesn't merely return you to the place where you were before the trial. No, God specializes in exceeding what you ever thought possible. Restoration through Him is multiplied, amplified, upgraded, and elevated. When the enemy tries to convince you that your suffering has taken too much, that your mistakes are too many, that your life is beyond repair, remember this. God's restoration is greater than what was lost. What feels like total destruction is the very stage where He displays His glory. What feels like the end of your story is the exact place where God begins a new chapter that is bigger, brighter, and better than you ever imagined. You may see nothing now, but the God who restores does not work in halves. He restores abundantly, lavishly, and powerfully. Sometimes restoration comes in unexpected forms. Sometimes God's fix is not simply a replacement, it's an upgrade. Your business may not just recover. It may explode in ways that surpass your vision. Your health may not just return. It may be stronger, more resilient, more vibrant. Your relationships may not just be repaired. They may be deeper, more honest, and more fulfilling. Your breakthrough may not just be the absence of struggle. It may be the presence of blessings you never even knew to pray for. God does not simply settle for normal. He restores magnificently. You must also understand that God's restoration is often tied to your faithfulness. The more you trust Him during the storm, the more you remain obedient in the trial, the more you refuse to quit when it's hard, the greater your restoration will be. The struggle is not wasted. It is the investment that multiplies the miracle. When you step out in faith, even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient, even when the outcome seems uncertain, you are positioning yourself to receive a restoration that exceeds the original. You are preparing your heart, your mind, and your spirit to steward a blessing that is immeasurable. Restoration is also about transformation. God doesn't just fix what's broken. He changes it for the better. Sometimes what you think you want restored is not what God wants to give you. Sometimes He restores in a way that elevates your life beyond what you could have dreamed. Your breakthrough may not look like you expected. It may arrive in a form you never planned. It may surpass your expectations and exceed your imagination. That's because God's ways are higher than your ways, and His thoughts are higher than your thoughts. What you see as restoration may be an upgrade in disguise. You need to release your attachment to the past and trust God for the future. Clinging to what was can blind you to what is coming. If your mind is fixed on just returning to the old, you may miss the new, greater blessings He is about to release. Restoration that is bigger than the original requires vision, faith, patience, and willingness to embrace change. It requires you to trust that God knows better than you do. He is the God who multiplies, who elevates, who exceeds expectations, and who turns impossibilities into undeniable victories. God's restoration is also a testimony. When He restores beyond what was lost, He demonstrates His glory, power, and faithfulness to the world. Your life becomes proof that He never abandons, never fails, and never runs out of solutions. Your restoration is not just for you. It is a light for others who are struggling, a witness to those who have lost hope, and a demonstration that God's ways are higher, His timing perfect, and His power limitless. When you trust Him, the restoration will come in abundance. When you stay faithful, the restoration will be multiplied. When you refuse to quit, the restoration will exceed your expectations. When you align your heart with His, the restoration will transform your life, your family, and your future. Your pain, your struggle, your loss, they are all temporary. God's restoration is eternal, abundant, and greater than the original. God honors the heart that refuses to quit, even in tears and struggle. I know it is hard to keep going when life seems relentless. I know it is painful to keep praying when answers seem absent. I know it is exhausting to keep believing when circumstances scream impossible. I know the nights when you cry until you have no tears left. The days when you carry burdens you were never meant to bear. The moments when your heart feels shattered and your spirit feels crushed. And yet, even in the midst of all of that, God sees the heart that refuses to quit. He honors the perseverance of faith. He honors the refusal to give up, the courage to keep moving forward, the commitment to keep trusting Him despite what you see, feel, or hear. The heart that refuses to quit is a heart that aligns with heaven. The spirit that refuses to surrender is a spirit that triggers miracles. The soul that refuses to bow to despair is a soul that releases supernatural favor. God notices when you are weary yet still pressing. He notices when you are broken yet still standing. He notices when your eyes are swollen from tears yet still looking to Him. Refusing to quit does not mean the struggle disappears. Refusing to quit does not mean the pain goes away. Refusing to quit does not mean the challenge becomes easy. It means you are choosing faith over fear, hope over despair, and trust over doubt. It means that despite the tears, the disappointment, the setbacks, and the failures, you are deciding to keep moving forward, to keep believing, to keep standing, and to keep trusting that God is at work. The enemy will try to discourage you. Circumstances will try to overwhelm you. People may try to abandon you or betray you. The world may mock your faith, your persistence, and your hope. But God honors those who do not give up. He moves on behalf of the persistent. He fights for the faithful. He blesses the unyielding. When you refuse to quit, you are participating in the miracle that is already in motion. You are releasing power in your own life through your determination, your faith, and your endurance. Refusing to quit also inspires others. The world needs to see people who keep going when everyone else has walked away. Your persistence becomes a beacon of hope for those who are struggling. Your refusal to quit becomes a declaration that God is real. God is faithful and God is working even when circumstances look impossible. Your faith, your perseverance, and your courage in the midst of trials speak louder than words ever could. Even when it feels like there is no strength left, even when your faith feels fragile, Even when your tears are endless, God honors the heart that refuses to quit. That heart triggers favor, provision, healing, restoration, and breakthroughs. That heart aligns with His promises, activates His power, and opens doors that human hands could never open. Refusing to quit is not just persistence. It is a declaration of trust in God, a choice to stand firm, and a key to unlocking miracles that will forever change your life. You must also understand that refusing to quit is often tested. Life will push, prod, and provoke you to give up. Challenges will intensify. Opponents will rise. Obstacles will appear. But the heart that refuses to quit sees beyond the test of the reward. It focuses not on the pain, but on the promise. It looks beyond the struggle to the victory. It understands that every trial, every setback, every disappointment is temporary. But God's honor, power, and faithfulness are eternal. Refuse to quit. Refuse to despair. Refuse to let circumstances define your outcome. Refuse to bow to fear. Refuse to let doubt overshadow hope. Refuse to give in when the enemy says it is over. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Keep standing. Keep fighting. Keep sowing. Keep seeking. God sees your perseverance. God honors your refusal to quit. And He is about to demonstrate His power, His favor, and His glory in ways that will overwhelm your mind, touch your heart, and transform your life forever. Miracles often appear where human solutions fail completely. I know you have faced situations where every human effort has fallen short. You've prayed, you've planned, you've strategized, and yet it seems like nothing works. The bills are unpaid, the doors remain closed, the relationships remain fractured, the health remains weak, and the future feels uncertain. Every solution you tried has failed. Every person you depended on has disappointed. And every plan you had seems to collapse in front of your eyes. But here is the truth that the Word of God reminds us of in Matthew 19:26. With men, this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. When human solutions fail, God's miracle begins. Jesus Himself demonstrated this principle repeatedly. When the disciples tried and failed to provide for the crowd, He multiplied the loaves and the fish. When Lazarus was dead, the human solution was final. But Jesus called him out of the tomb. When the storms threatened the disciples' boat, human strength failed. But Jesus commanded the winds and the waves to obey Him. What men deem impossible is routine to God. What humans cannot fix, God restores, heals, multiplies, and transforms. The place where everything has failed is the exact place where God manifests His glory. I know the enemy whispers, there's no way out. You've done all you can. This is the end. Don't listen. That is not truth. It is deception. God specializes in impossibilities. He specializes in what humans cannot achieve. And when you turn to Him, when you surrender your situation fully into His hands, when you pray with faith, miracles appear in ways that defy logic, reason, and natural expectation. Psalm 77:14 says, "You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples." God wants to show up in your life. He wants to display His power in ways that leave everyone in awe. You must release the human solutions that have failed and embrace the supernatural solution that never fails. Stop trying to fix it with limited resources, limited wisdom, and limited strength. Stop relying on human logic that cannot comprehend God's plan. The miracle comes when you stop fighting with your own hands and start trusting in His Exodus. 14 shows us the Israelites trapped at the Red Sea. Humanly speaking, there was no way out. Pharaoh's army was closing in, the water was in front, and there seemed to be no solution. But God made a way where there was no way. He parted the sea, and the impossible became inevitable. Miracles often require patience, persistence, and faith. When Elijah prayed for rain after 3 years of drought, human eyes saw no sign, but faith waited after repeated prayer and obedience. The clouds came and the heavens opened. When human hope runs dry, God's promise does not. Human eyes may not see, human hands may not achieve, human minds may not understand, but the Spirit of God moves and brings miracles. John 14:14 reminds us, "And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son." You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. Miracles flow when faith aligns with God's will and God's power. You must not limit God by what you see or understand. Miracles defy explanation. They exceed expectation. They surpass understanding. Human effort is never enough. Human wisdom is never sufficient. But the Spirit of the living God has no limitations. Miracles appear in the areas of life where human failure is most evident, because that is where God's glory shines the brightest. Where every plan fails, every hope seems lost, and every expectation is dashed, Jesus steps in and performs what only He can do. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is trusting God when nothing else makes sense. I know it seems like your prayers are unanswered, like the world is silent, like the darkness is relentless. I know it feels like every effort is wasted. Every step is uphill. Every hope fades before it is realized. I know your heartache is for relief. Your soul longs for peace, and your spirit cries out for a breakthrough. And yet, the Word of God reminds us in Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Hope is not blind. Hope is anchored in the promises of God. Jesus teaches us that hope is active, not passive. In Luke 18, the persistent widow refused to quit seeking justice, and her perseverance brought about the answer. Hope is refusing to accept despair. Hope is declaring life in the midst of death. Hope is declaring peace in the midst of chaos. Hope is holding on to God's word even when the circumstances scream the opposite. It is saying, I don't see it yet, but I trust you, Jesus. I don't feel it yet, but I believe your promise. I don't understand it yet, but I will wait and I will not give up. Hope requires faith. Hebrews 11:1 defines it perfectly. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. You may not see the solution, the restoration, or the breakthrough yet. You may not feel it, understand it, or recognize it. But hope is holding on to the truth that God is at work even when you cannot detect His hand. Hope is trusting the one who parted seas, healed the sick, raised the dead, and multiplied blessings beyond comprehension. It is trusting Jesus when every natural explanation has failed. Hope is also transformative. It changes how you respond to trials. It keeps you from despair. It motivates you to pray, to praise, to act, and to persevere. Hope prevents your heart from becoming bitter, your mind from becoming cynical, and your spirit from becoming numb. It aligns you with God's timing and God's plan, positioning you for the miracle before it manifests. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Hope strengthens you, sustains you, and carries you through the storms. The enemy will always try to steal your hope. Circumstances, people, failures, and disappointments will attempt to convince you that hope is foolish. But hope anchored in God is unshakable. It sees beyond the present difficulty. It looks past the pain. It fixes its eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith. Hope trusts that the God who has never failed will never fail now. It believes that no matter how impossible it seems, no matter how long the wait, no matter how broken the situation, God's power, God's timing, and God's wisdom are sufficient to bring the breakthrough. Hope is active trust. Hope is confident expectation. Hope is a declaration that even when nothing makes sense, God is still God. Hope is saying, I don't understand it, but I trust your plan, Lord. I don't see the solution, but I know you are working. I don't feel the breakthrough, but I know you will deliver. When hope remains alive in the heart, when faith persists in the spirit, when trust refuses to yield to despair, miracles happen, blessings flow, and God's glory is revealed in ways that surpass imagination. Hope is not wishful thinking. It is the confident assurance that God is at work, that Jesus is interceding, and that the Spirit is orchestrating your life for good. It is the unwavering belief that your current impossibility is the very platform for God to demonstrate His glory. It is the conviction that even when everything fails, God's word, God's promises, and God's power remain steadfast. Hope transforms the impossible into the inevitable, darkness into light and sorrow into joy. As we close today, I want you to take a moment and let this sink in. We have walked through 10 truths, 10 keys that will transform the way you see every impossible situation in your life. We started with the understanding that God specializes in the impossible. Your hopeless moments are exactly where He wants to show His glory. We learned that your pain is temporary, your trials are preparation, and your faith in the middle of despair is what activates heaven's power. We discovered that God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match your expectations, and that your situation does not define your destiny, His power does. We saw that restoration is often greater than the original, that perseverance in the midst of tears unlocks God's favor, that miracles appear where human solutions fail, and that true hope is trusting God when nothing else makes sense. Every keynote builds on the other, creating a path for your breakthrough. You are not limited by what you see. by what others say, or by what has failed before. Your breakthrough is already in motion. The God who holds eternity in his hands is working on your behalf. He is orchestrating a solution, multiplying your blessings, restoring what's broken, and exceeding your expectations in ways you cannot yet imagine. Today, I am calling you to respond. Refuse despair, refuse fear, refuse to surrender to hopelessness. Step into your faith boldly. Pray with expectation, act with confidence. Speak life over your circumstances, and as you do, you will witness the miraculous power of God move in your life. This message is not just for encouragement. It is a blueprint for breakthrough, a declaration that no matter how impossible it looks, God will fix it. Your faith aligns with his promises and your hope activates his power. Remember, this is just the beginning. Stay connected with messages like this. Grow your faith and immerse yourself in truth right here on Myron Golden Track, where we provide the boldest, most practical faith-filled teachings to transform your life, your finances, your relationships, and your destiny. Heat.